So, I'm not really sure if it's a good idea to tell this story or not because it's been long enough that everyone's forgotten about this, which is probably good, but it's worth it to me if someone can end up learning from my mistakes. So, this took place a long time ago, towards the end of 8th grade, and around this time, I was still in my emo phase, and because of it, kids at school jokingly started calling me a school shooter, and because I had a really bad and edgy sense of humor at the time, I went along with it and made jokes about it too, despite the fact it could have gotten me in trouble. And even before I made the post that got me into trouble, I did a lot of really dumb shit that could have easily gotten the cops called because I had no self-awareness. Like, I remember one time I went up to some random kid I didn't know who was in a lower grade, and I told him that I liked him and that he shouldn't come to school tomorrow, and he didn't get that I was joking, and he looked legitimately scared, but he just walked away, and he didn't end up reporting me or anything. So I kept going on with this joke, not really learning my lesson, but eventually came the day where I made the post that got me in trouble. I had just watched that one video on the Sandy Hook YouTube channel that was a meme for a while, where it has this unrelated story in the foreground, but in the background there's supposed to be signs that a kid is going to shoot up the school. And the way it was made was just really funny to me, because even though it was going for a serious message, I just thought it was kind of over the top. And one of the signs in the background really stood out to me, and I thought it was funny. It's during one of the parts, the main character is scrolling through Instagram, and if you look closely, you can see a post made by him where he's holding a gun and it says, "See you at school tomorrow." And I thought it was funny and dumb, because why would a real school shooter just warn everyone like that? And it was so funny to me that I wanted to make a post like that on my own Instagram as a reference to that video and the joke about me at school. And I was gonna use a Nerf gun so everyone would clearly get it's not real, but I couldn't find any of my Nerf guns, so I used an airsoft gun instead because I assumed everyone would understand I was joking. But there was a big problem I didn't notice, and that's that the airsoft gun actually did look pretty real, especially because I put a black and white filter on it to make it look more edgy, and that made it impossible to see the orange tip. Anyway, I posted it, and a couple people commented on it making jokes because they understood I was joking, and I went to bed later that night thinking everything was fine. But the next morning I woke up and my mom told me there was a cop here talking about some kind of school shooting threat, and I got up and I started getting pissy with the cop, like, "Oh, it's just a joke and you're dumb," and I showed him the airsoft gun. My dad pulled me aside and told me that I needed to be respectful to the cops or I just make everything else worse. So I went out and I apologized to him, and then me and my parents just talked to him for a while and tried to explain everything. And he said he pretty much believed me that it was just a joke and that it wasn't a real threat, but he'd still have to arrest me because they needed to talk to me and threats were still illegal. So I fucking got put in handcuffs and put in the back of a police car, and I got driven down to the station. And when I got there, this other guy removed my handcuffs and escorted me to the room I need to go. And the whole time he kept asking me if I had any weapons, and I kept telling him I didn't and that he could search me if he didn't believe me. But I guess he wasn't allowed to search me for some reason. But he brought me to this room and I got interviewed by this guy, and he basically just asked me to explain myself and asked me some stuff about myself. And he was nice, and he said I seemed like a good kid who made a dumb mistake, but apparently I was still being charged with committing a terroristic threat. And the guy came back, and because I was charged with something, I guess he could search me. So he searched me, and I was like, "Dude, I told you I didn't have anything." He was like, "Whatever." And then I had to go to some other part of the building, and I think it was kind of a place for troubled kids, but they weren't gonna make me stay there or anything. I just needed to talk to a couple people down there. So I sat in the waiting room down there for a long time, and then I talked to the guy at the front desk and gave him some info, and then I talked to then I went to the back and talked to this other lady, and she told me it was some kid's mother who was scared and thought it was real, and that she would most likely drop the charges against me, and that I was free to go for now. And my parents were already told to drive over there, so they were waiting for me outside, so I went outside and got picked up by them right away. And they told me that the school had suspended me for the rest of the school year because when this had happened, there was only like a couple days in the week before summer break anyway, so they basically just suspended me for the rest of the year. And my parents also gave me a punishment where like I wasn't allowed to go on social media at all for the whole summer. I think a month later or something, we found out that the lady didn't want to drop charges and that we might have to go to trial and shit. And we got assigned a judge, and me and my mom were talking to my therapist about it, and she kind of knew all the judges in the area, and she told us that we got one of the harshest judges in the area. And she made us come all the way down to court just to say we accept the trial, which every other judge does over mail, because it literally takes like 2 seconds of your time. So my whole family had to get up at 7 a.m. and get into nice looking clothes and drive all the way down to the courthouse just so we could go in the courtroom and say we accepted the trial, which was a huge fucking pain in the ass. But we did get to meet the public defender we were assigned, and she was really nice and helpful. We were gonna hire a lawyer maybe, but she seemed nice and like she knew what she was doing, and so we just used her because we might as well since she's free. But I think another long time after that, we had to go down to the courtroom a second time, but we didn't even go into the room. Our public defender just went in, and somehow she got the charges dropped as long as I did diversion, which was a pretty good deal. So I went to the diversion officer lady another long while again, and she was super nice and said she was willing to help me. And after we left that, we found out that I got everything dropped and I didn't even have to do diversion. So after that, everything was pretty much over. I was off the hook. Yeah, so this was pretty much the only time I was ever in any legal trouble, and it was because of a really dumb fucking reason. So just if any of you guys like to make edgy jokes out there, I hope you can learn from my mistakes and realize that if you're gonna make jokes like that, you need to have some self-awareness and at least don't talk about it in public places or post it on social media where everyone can see it and easily take it wrong. And don't assume everyone will know that you're joking, because it can go really bad. But personally, I've calmed down a lot on the offensive jokes since this, because I realize they can be dangerous and not worth it. And also, they just started to feel cheap and unfunny after I got a little bit more mature. So I've learned my lesson from this experience, at least. But even though I had to learn it the hard way. But thank you for listening to my short little story. I'm almost done writing the script for the second acid report, so that'll be out soon. Goodbye, and see you guys in the next video.